we're going to talk about Don Lemon and Carson Tucker. Carson Tucker, when it comes to the Fox News enterprise, they're being sued for roughly $1 billion. And I'm not connecting it to that has anything to do with Tucker Carlson, but I'm pretty sure he played a pivotal role when it comes to the misinformation and the lies he's been telling on Fox News for quite some time. When it comes to Don Lemon, allegations has been coming out supposedly quietly for quite some years, but it really didn't get blown up until his last spat when he had two female co-hosts. I think this was about a month or two ago where he was blamed for treating them in a very hostile manner. And so people have been saying that that has been going on for at least anywhere from, the past 10 years or so, and they've been sweeping it under the rug. On one hand, CNN says they have parted ways with Don Lemon. Don Lemon said on his Twitter feed that he has been fired from CNN and that he's stunned. Well, I think Don Lemon is the only one stunned about this information. I believe when those allegations came out, there is a racial dynamic, in my opinion, when it comes to that, because majority of the women that have spoken out against him have been white. I don't know all of the races, but I know the majority of them have been white. That he's been hostile in some form or manner, or undermining them when it comes to the information that they're depicting, that he's always been hostile or countering, or there's been some sort of friction, underlying friction within the commentary of both of them. So these are the dynamics that I think that we need to have in place when we look at these two powerhouse journalists on two of the nation's largest news networks. And CNN is worldwide, Fox is worldwide. Some people think that Fox News or Fox Enterprise is just Carson Tucker, Sean Hannity, and the other, circus group that they have on there. What's going on, William Sheila? Nice to see you as well. Currently, guys, I'm in Costa Rica, so that's why I haven't really had time to make my usual content. So let's put that out there. But I had to address this because I know there's going to be other people within the Black empowerment space coming out and giving you a more in-depth, investigative look at the total situation. But I just thought that it would be good that we go over this very briefly on the surface, because this happened in today or yesterday, that these two have been fired. Now, Carson Tucker is upset with Fox News because he thought he would be able to come in on Monday and do a last broadcast and say goodbye to all of his viewers and possibly let them know, hey, I'm still going to be around. I'm still going to be making content. Maybe Carson Tucker will go over on Truth Social with Donald Trump to make content. Maybe Carson Tucker get picked up on one of these low-level networks that nobody never heard of, like some of his cohorts. But that's the end of Carson Tucker. I think Carson Tucker, I know that a lot of us who kind of balance the news, we look at this news, that news, we knew essentially that he was going to get fired. I mean, Fox is taking on a heavy load right now with almost $1 billion lawsuit. And with CNN, what people are not understanding about CNN, a lot of the baby boomer generation, unfortunately, has been dying off. And Generation X, like myself, and the future generations are not listening to those guys. We're not listening or watching CNN to a large degree. We're not looking at MSNBC. We're not looking at ABC News, okay? We're trying to find the real news, unadulterated, unfiltered. I mean, in my opinion, one of the news channels I watch so I don't get a lot of biases is WeOn. WeOn is a Indian news channel, but they kind of do world news. And I'm not promoting them in any way. I'm just letting you know that's where I kind of get, some unadulterated, unfiltered news from, where it doesn't have a Democratic overview or a Republican overview. So when you're looking at Fox, Fox is heavily funded by the GOP, the conservatives, okay, the Republicans. When you look at CNN, they are heavily funded by the Democrats. So when we look at these two dynamics, we need to understand who's being funded and what rhetoric are they pushing and the biases that they're actually trying to get the people to sway on. And these is for Democratic powerhouses, because we know ever since Lyndon B. Johnson or Martin Luther King, majority of black people have been voting Democrat just to vote, right? They'll tell you that if you don't vote, you don't have a voice, was absolutely untrue. We understand that your power chip, that you are a power broker of a vote, that when you vote, you now have lost your power because we live in a democracy, even though the Constitution states that this is a republic. You have representatives in place. Once you cast your vote, you have no power. But when you hold your voting chip, this is the leverage, this is the power that you now have. So now that CNN has been losing a lot of viewers, they're trying to get rid of, quote unquote, what they would like to label as toxic people or toxic anchor men and anchor women. And we already knew that Don Lemon was out, his way out. I haven't watched CNN in quite some time, but I have seen some clips. I don't know if Anderson Cooper is still there. I don't know if Wolf Blitzer is still there. These are some of their top anchor people, but Don Lemon really, I won't say he represented black people, but he did represent powerful black people holding position in enterprise news. He was one of the few faces you've seen other than Lester Holt. Okay, a lot of people know about Lester Holt, but these are two dynamic figures. And by Don Lemon getting fired, I wonder who they're going to bring in. Now, none of these allegations have been proven to be true because it's conjecture. It's what people feel and think. When I was on with Don Lemon, I believed that he slighted me. I believed that he undermined me. The way he was countering some of my information, it was very hostile. So a lot of these things that we need to understand is that it's based on people emotion, is not fact. But of course, perception is reality. Perception is reality. Look at Jonathan Majors. Look at what he's going through. His girlfriend came out with allegations and then recanted those allegations, but the damage was already done. Because here's the thing about entertainment, because news, believe it or not, is a form of entertainment. I know people who can watch news 24/7 because they're like, oh, it has all sorts of entertainment on the news. You have drama, you have crime, you have violence, you have happy stories, you have bad stories, so on and so forth. So when we look at these things, it's kind of like the fattening of a pig, right? They fattened up Jonathan Major. They said he's the new upcoming star. He's the new sex symbol of America, big buff black man, heterosexual, very key there. But then they tried to demasculinize him on some of these magazine covers, him wearing, boots that were sewn into his jeans, a lot of fluorescent colors, pink, non-masculine colors, okay? So they fattened him up like a pig, and then what? These allegations come out. Instead of Hollywood, his marketing group, his PR group having his back, guess what they did? They dropped him. They dropped him. They don't want any bad cover. See, here's the thing about entertainment. When they realize that they can't get any more money from you, or they realize that you're hurting their brand, they will drop you, regardless of the allegations. Because here's the thing, what you know about being a black person in America. Once the allegations are public, you're guilty. Doesn't matter. He's lost roles in movies. He's lost his gig with the Army, with the Be All You Can Be or Army of One, whatever the slogan was at the time. This is how they fatten the pig and they chop off his head. Just like with Don Lemon. Don Lemon been with CNN for 17 years. For 17 years. But when it comes to money, there are no friends in showbiz. When it comes to money, there is no biz in showbiz. This is why they let Don Lemon go, because one, the viewership at CNN has greatly decreased because unfortunately baby boomers have died off, and Generation X, we stopped watching, hopefully we stopped watching it, but I would like to believe that majority of Generation X, those people who were born from 82 to 70 something, right? There's like a 10-year increments when it comes to generations. But when we look at these two dynamic figures for their own news perspective networks, you look at a Carson Tucker, you notice that Carson Tucker always have this very underlying racial bias when it comes to certain situations. So a lot of black people never looked at Carson Tucker, but he had a lot of Donald Trump MAGA hat wearing people to support him. He was the most watched news show in America, believe it or not, Carson Tucker. And a lot of the information he's been spewing over the years have been flat out lies with no evidence, no investigative journalism to back it. So I would like to believe that Fox News has not only cut the fat in the lives of Carson Tucker, but that's a large risk to a network who is now being sued for almost $1 billion. I think it was around 780 million or around $800 million. But hey, after taxes and fees and all other things, it's roughly $1 billion. Now, a lot of people who've been watching Don Lemon on CNN for quite some time, and for a lot of you who have been contributors, subscribers to CNN for quite some time, it probably never dawned on you how over the years there's been a decline in CNN. You yourself probably haven't even watched CNN in a very long time because you understand there's a ploy. There is a plan to dupe, trip, manipulate, and brainwash black folk to continue to vote Democrat after Democrat after Democrat. If you notice, you're always caught in the between. You have the Democrats who verbally cater to black folk, but do nothing for us in return. And eventually, here's the thing. When the allegations first came out about Don Lemon, of how he was quote unquote hostile to these two white women on national news, I knew that his tenure at CNN was done. And then shortly after that, numerous of news stories came out stating that Don Lemon is on a rocky ship. He's really on a thin line with CNN. But a lot of people, and I guess even himself, did not believe that this was a real thing. So when he stated on his Twitter feed that this is a surprise to me that CNN fired me, CNN stating that we parted ways, that it was a mutual agreement. You know and I know. There's no such thing as parting ways, right? It's not like Don Lemon went to the CNN executives and saying, I had a great time here, but I would like to venture off and do other things. Similar to Trevor Noah in The Daily Show. See, that's when two people are mutually agreeing, or he stated, I'm not going to renew my contract because I want to go do stand-up comedy. I want to travel the world. I want to make more money. I want to do other things. That's a mutual agreement. Trevor Noah in The Daily Show. But when it came to Don Lemon, there's no mutual parted ways. They fired him. But they stated that, hey, we parted ways, and he's stating that they fired me. Now, you know and I know, we know when we're getting fired. If you ever got fired before, then you know they fired you. You're like, hey, we're just going to part ways. Well, I don't want to part ways. I want to keep my job. Well, we no longer need your services, so we're just going to part ways. So are you firing me? Well, it's not that we're firing you. Just don't show up on Monday. Your badge has been revoked. Your access has been revoked. We took you off the access list. You no longer have a company parking spot. So I'm being fired. Let's just call it you're parting ways. Now, here's the real question. Where these guys are going to end up next? Where will Carson Tucker end up next? Who's going to accept Tucker Carlson other than Fox News? Who's going to stand for the rhetoric that he spews? That's question number one. Question number two, where is Don Lemon? Where is Don Lemon going to end up at? Who's going to pick up Don Lemon? After all these allegations of him being hostile to his women co-hosts or women guests on his show. Now, they couldn't get Don Lemon on sexual harassment or sexual assault like they would like to do every black man. But they got him on being hostile. Because we all know that Don Lemon is openly homosexual, right? He's part of the LGBT community. So they couldn't get him on that. Just like Jonathan Major, when we talk about him, fattening of the pig, so to speak, allegations comes out that he assaulted his girlfriend. Then she recanted those statements. And of course, his publicist, his PR, all these other people came out initially to support him. And then just like Don Lemon, Jonathan Majors, multiple women has come out and stated, oh, he's been hostile to me in reference to Don Lemon. He has also assaulted me when it comes to Jonathan Major. So now you have multiple women solidifying stories. They're stating that these black men, that's the key component here, family, that these black men have done these things to me. What are you guys going to do about it? Now, a lot of times people don't think there's a race component to it, and I understand that. But I want you to look at Jonathan Majors in comparison to a James Baldwin. James Baldwin literally killed someone on set. Now, it's been labeled, it has been filed as an accident, okay? But someone died because they had live rounds on sets. It was in his particular gun, and unfortunately, one of the actresses lost her life. But James Baldwin got away scot-free. I'm not stating that James Baldwin intentionally, unlive this person, this person passing away on set. I'm not stating that he purposely did that or he had any knowledge of it, but I just want you to look at the dynamic of how certain figures in media and entertainment get away with quote unquote unliving some person versus allegations not being proved. Think about that. Think about that. Simple allegations has been ruining black people's career for eons, for a very long time, because allegations alone can destroy people. Where we have truth when it comes to Donald Trump, even video recordings of Donald Trump stating that he goes up to beautiful women and just kisses them in the mouth. This is before he became president. I want you to look at the dynamic here. He will go up to beautiful women and kiss them in the mouth. Number two, he stated while he was on a travel bus with some other businessmen that he goes around and grabs beautiful women's crotch. And you know what I'm referring to, that he grabs their crotch. Like, these are all forms of sexual harassment, sexual assault, but he still became president. This is the privilege within that community. This is the privilege within that community. So when we're referencing these two and we're trying to understand the dynamics, I want you to take it all in. On one, Fox News is losing $1 billion. So it doesn't matter if black, white, Asian, Hispanic, blue, green, purple. When it comes to losing $1 billion, you have to start letting people go who may incur more impact of damage to your network than bring revenue, so you can then increase your yearly growth year after year. Even though Tucker Carson was one of the most watched news shows in the world. So this is a big thing when it comes to Fox News. They didn't go about letting him go very easily. And then when it comes to Don Lemon, like I said there, it involved women. He's a black man, white women. You know the history. That's how it goes. Well, that's just kind of my brief overview of the way I'm taking the information all in. But stay tuned, family, because I think the worst is yet to come. And there's going to be a lot more information that comes out. Like I stated before, when it comes to Don Lemon, there's been multiple women that came out and said that he treated them very hostile, working with them within CNN as well as some of the hosts on there. So there you have it. You guys have a great night. I'll talk to you and see you on the next one. Peace.